Tonight on Public Access Live, my guest is none other than the founder and CEO of Diabolical Productions, the lead singer of Team Galaxy, and the host of Homegrown Radio for years. He does more to help the local musician than I ever thought I could. Tonight's guest is none other than Davit Souders, and that interview begins in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Public Access Live, your window into the entertainment world. I'm Agent DubSKI, of course, and my guest this week is none other than, like I said, the founder of Diabolical Productions promoting company, lead singer of Team Galaxy for at least 2 decades, and Homegrown.
I'm not that old, but go ahead.
He's not as old as me. He's a young guy. Davit Souders, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. I don't even know where to start with you. Your CV is so huge.
First of all, it's a super honor to be here and watch you work, and I love it, so I'm ready to do it.
All right.
That's the best thing about it. I thought it was hat day. Did I get that wrong?
No, I'm at that age now where I think every time I wear a hat, it's taking a little bit of my hair.
Just grow it really long.
I can't anymore. Look,
and then you comb it way over.
I had my hair down to here.
Yeah.
I had the beard. I came out of the shower one day and I did a typical.
You came out of the shower when I came to the door, and that was a little awkward, but
yeah. Well, my wife comes in there and I do the hairband flip. Poosh! Get the hair all the way to the back, and I look in the mirror and I go, you know what? I get it now. I get the popularity of Jesus. He was a good-looking fella. I got the Jesus look, and she goes, "You're not keeping that." So now I've got the short do. How you like it?
It's
okay.
Damn good looking, man.
Yeah.
I say that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a mature audience. The only time I've ever had to put some kind of warning on any video I've done out of that chair was I had one guy in here who was really into BDSM. He'd found BDSM in his 30s, and he was super excited about it. And he not only, you can curse, you can say whatever you want. Profanity isn't a problem.
Damn.
His context.
That was a test.
When he was he was telling me about a scene he did on stage with another person, and it's like a rule for radio. There's things you can say, but there's also exceptions to those rules. Well, he just went for the full Monty, and it was like, no, you can't. I don't want my channel getting banned because you got a little too descriptive with a blowjob.
Well, let me say this. I'm glad it's a mature audience.
Yeah.
And it works good for me because I'm so mature. I'm mature.
Mature. That'll really
3, 2,
endear yourself
1.
to the Brits.
There you go.
I mean, it's not like we didn't invent the English language, but we let you guys use it.
We're not out of gas. We're out of petrol.
Where do we start
thing.
with you? Probably bands, because that was probably your first venture into entertainment, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's start with music.
Okay.
Who did you see that you're like, I want to be that guy?
Well, the first concert I ever went to, I know there's no way you could be that old. My first concert was Elvis Presley in Tulsa
My mom
at
went
the
to that
Navy
show.
Center in 1974. That was my absolute first concert, and
She
I was
said-
an Elvis fan, handed down from my parents, and it was, to this day, it was such an incredible experience.
She said that the place went. My mom was at that show, and she said the place went dark, and as soon as there was like a couple of flash bulbs going off, and as soon as a flash bulb caught his jumpsuit, the place just lit up with flash bulbs. They're like, before the lights ever came on, you could sing.
But and that's why with with like YouTube. You know, if I'd had YouTube as a kid, because my world in loving music, I was, you know, getting Hit Parade magazine,
Right.
Rolling Stone,
Of course.
Cream magazine, and all these were important. But it was looking through the pictures, and I had a crush on Debbie Harry and Blondie before I'd ever heard them. But you know, but just
lady.
looking in the magazines and then just learning about music. And even now, I'll go to YouTube to look up my favorite band. Like one of my favorite bands is The Who. And
Saw them
same
with
thing.
the wife
It's
on
just,
Valentine's Day.
to be able to look up and find footage of them. And back again, when I was a kid, it was the magazines and an occasional maybe movie or something like that.
The Who's one of those fortunate bands that we can still see.
Yeah,
You know,
and
still tour.
they're
Amazing.
incredible.
I still think they're the greatest band of all time.
and you know I do.
Do you? You put them over Zeppelin?
Zeppelin and The Who are two of my favorites, but if I really had to pick, and
it to The Who.
I'm saying this documenting it, but it is definitely my passion is even more for The Who, and I tried so hard as a kid to look like Roger Daltrey, and as it turns out, I look more like Vince Neil, and not by choice, but I have to be realistic. But as a kid, I really wanted to be Roger Daltrey, and I tried to dress like him. I got my hair permed, and he wore the silver cross that I had a friend make, and I had it made at a jewelry shop. I was all in, and Roger Daltrey's birthday was March 1st. Mine's March 10th. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Right.
And
You were the heir apparent.
I thought so, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other thing, but that's why I've always kind of been upset with Eddie Vedder, because he's friends with The Who and performs with them. We're about the same age. And I thought that was going to be me. You know, so Eddie Vedder is kind of living my life with The Who as a fan and a friend to him that I thought I would get to. But I've
Eddie
been a
Vedder
lifelong...
he lucked into fame.
But he gets to hang and pal with The Who. And he just sang with them again at Wembley Stadium. But and Roger Daltrey's mic swinging, I still do that with my bands. And we're not talking the little swing, we're talking the full arc.
Oh, I know. You got to tape it up
And-
to make sure you don't. Bing.
Yeah, and the younger audience thinks it's new, and the older audience knows it's me and my tribute to Roger Daltrey and The Who. So,
I'm glad to hear it. I mean, most of the people we get in here are comedians, and all I get to hear about it. Well, the first time I saw Carlin, if I hear one more Carlin story, no, I love it. Please tell me your Carlin story, but I don't care.
And I take being a front man and a live show important, and it doesn't matter to me what decade you're in, 60s, 50s, today. A good live show always has value, whether you're Little Richard or The Who or Elvis or Helmet or Ministry, and on and on and on. There's a value in putting on a live show, and some musicians don't choose to do that, and that's great. That's their thing. But me, I think the live energy is really important.
Do you have to share the spotlight much? I mean, you're kind of a
right now.
No. Like when Team Galaxy does a show, because like you said, it was an all-star kind of a. It's like a local Whitesnake. It's like, you know, all the big names. You got Vandenberg in there and Vivian Campbell, and well, I guess that's a modern Whitesnake. I grew up on John Sykes' Whitesnake. You know what I mean? It's a little different, but it's kind of a super group. But do you share?
That's a great question.
Do you have the stage presence enough to carry you in front of an all-star lineup behind you?
Some musicians and perhaps some comedians, there's things about egos they don't like that.
Right.
You know, but I love it, and it spurs me on. And outside of my band, I've gotten to perform with people like Brian Parton here in Tulsa, who's great rockabilly. And for me, it just makes you want to really do, you know, it spurs you on. And I've always said an act like Team Galaxy, it's kind of like the Justice League or the Avengers. You all have your own adventures, but then you come together and form a team. And that's how I've kind of always looked at Team Galaxy. Not that we're, you know, like Captain America, but it's the idea that we come together and have our own worlds, but we come together. And to me, I love it. And if somebody's, you know, performing, that's the whole idea of what we do. I love the vibe of working with other people. And if they're a hot shot, and most of the guys I get to play with are, it just makes me want to come up to their level and work with them. So I have no problems with that. I welcome it, and I love it.
You've played with Andy Callis, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Great guy.
I know him from Tony Romanella days.
Yeah, and Tony played with us for about 8 years.
Yeah.
Andy did maybe about 5. And again, that's what I'm talking about. Great guys like that.
Mr. Ize, thank you so much for the raid and the 5 people you brought with you. Some more Dorset in the house. Jesus all up in me. Thank you, Jesus. Love your face. Thank you guys so much. No questions yet. I was going to say, as a compliment, as a comedian, if there's 100 people in there, you're motivated to do a good job. However, if you're playing a bar and there's 3 people there and 2 of them are facing the bar watching sports on television, it kind of takes some of your motivation away. I saw you guys performing Christmas carols at river parks.
Yeah.
You were like in front of 1,000 people, but there was like 20 people or 30 people there, but
Sometimes.
you still gave it the energy.
Well, and that's another. I'm glad you brought that up, because to me that's another part of it. Again, I'll say comedians and musicians. Sometimes there's that attitude. Oh, I need the crowd to get me going. I'm going to do what I do, whether there's 1,000 people there, several thousand, or 3 people. That part of it doesn't have any consequence. I get so hyped up to perform. It's just this adrenaline rush, and I'm there to do my thing. And I used to joke, "Don't come hear me sing, come watch me sing." But it's just about a performance. But it's great to have a lot of people there. But again, I've got a job to do, and I want to do it.
With your musical background spanning such a variety and eras, I mean, from Elvis or rockabilly all the way up to some of the stuff, more modern stuff. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite that you like to perform if you're doing covers, or if you're doing something? Do you like to perform in the style of Bam? Or I know the Roger Daltrey thing, but
well, even when if we do stuff from Elvis songs, I'm not there to be an Elvis impersonator.
Right.
I might say it's kind of like Who meets Elvis.
You're doing a song. You're not
as
doing
long as
Elvis.
I can swing a microphone.
Right, but
that's part of the fun.
It's important to differentiate. You're doing a song. You're not doing Elvis.
Exactly, and I want to do I just want to bring the energy, however that translates itself. So it's not necessarily, to me, it doesn't have to be like somebody, though everybody has their influences, of course, but there's a certain energy there. Even if we're doing maybe a slower song, there's a energy, because and just if you're into it and excited about it, and it takes nothing. My father has always said, "David, I don't know any musicians that get as excited about rehearsal as you do." Rehearsals for me, I'm just like, so it's kind of the second best thing, but that's just how I've been since I was a teenager. It's just always important.
Where did that take you from being a musician to promoting shows? Or I mean, when did you find a love of? Did you meet somebody you're like, I can help this guy? And did that build into homegrown, or was it just start with one person that you had the dream that this person has I can help them get somewhere, and then more and more people?
I was in my first band, and starting in high school, we had a lot of success, and that carried on through when I went to college. And then at some point in college, the band broke up, and I've just loved so many aspects of music. When I got out of college, there was a club in Tulsa at 18th and Boston called SRO, and I was fascinated by it and started working there, and then managing the club and booking the acts, and it just kind of grew from the love of being a performer to also putting events together. And it started there, and just booking local bands at SRO. SRO was really a dance club, but we put them on the stage, and that's what started it. And then starting to do some national acts there, and it just grew. And that was from about 85, 86 to 90, and then it was in 90 that I formed my company, Diabolical Productions, and also that's the year I opened the club Icon on Peoria originally, and it was I just wanted to do a bigger version of what I was doing at SRO, and be careful what you wish for, because that's exactly what happened. It was just much bigger, much more successful than I imagined at the time.
I didn't know you back then, but I knew Michael Ling.
Yeah.
I went to school with him, so
yeah.
He was DJing at Icon.
DJ Snap, sure was.
And plus he had Thing One over on Peoria, that skate shop.
Yeah.
We used to buy stuff from him.
And just went from there, and that was just became this phenomenon, and it was just incredible. And I started booking bigger national acts, and then as they got bigger, I'd bring them through Icon. And my idea, I wanted to be kind of the alternative chamber of commerce from Tulsa, meaning I want to come by and love us, because when I first started booking shows, a couple agents would say, "Tulsa, what's in Tulsa?"
Right.
And that was frustrating, because Tulsa has had a long history of big shows coming from Elvis, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, on and on and on.
Or the people hanging out with Leon Russell that would come and record at church just on a,
So Tulsa's been on the map for years,
Clapton,
through the 50s.
Harrison.
Cab Calloway from the 30s, 40s. So we've had a history. So when an agent says that, it was more like, well, okay, but we've had a history. So, but I created this thing, and then it turned into, oh, we got to play Tulsa, one of our best shows on the tour. And then as they got bigger, I started booking Kane's Ballroom and started putting them in Kane's, and it just kind of grew from there. And it was just a love of organizing, promoting, and putting events together, really.
Dr. Cameras, thank you so much. Rating with a party of 11 people. Crowd's getting big now. It keeps growing. You know, as you're telling the story, it was kind of a.
Am I putting you to sleep?
No. It brought something to mind immediately that, you know, just because you might have met some resistance in your musical dreams, you know, like you're not getting gigs or you're not getting the right connections and stuff, doesn't mean that you're out of the game. Like, you know, like his band broke up. You know, he went into booking bands, and you're still in there, and you still get to network with people and maybe get your music back on track. You don't have to like give up on the dream just because one facet of it got a little bit of, you know. Well,
that's another thing is I tell people, you know, and I've taught classes on the music industry, which we talked about earlier, but being in creative people, as we were talking about earlier off cameras, the kids are saying, they it's kind of a test of perseverance, and that's a big deal. Totally. How bad you want it, because not everybody will have the same degree of commitment and drive, and if you're that person, it can be somewhat frustrating. But you know,
if you've got work hard in you, you will eliminate 90% of the competition immediately.
Yeah, right off the bat. I learned that again. I learned a lot of lessons that are still with me today when I was a teenager doing these things, and you know. We were a band that rehearsed 6-7 nights a week in high school, and but when we play shows, everybody started coming to them, and it just grew and grew, and we sold out the Kane's Ballroom, and you know, it was just a lot of things. And the key, I think, was we just took it serious. It was fun, but we took it as serious fun, you might say.
Right.
And those are things that have been ethics that have been with me.
Nice.
Ever since then.
How did that roll into a radio show?
Well, when I was going back again, a lot of things I do today have been passions with me since I was a kid.
Sure.
Elementary school, I used to listen to the radio, and there was a great morning DJ on the AM station, which was big in the time again, Morning Mouth Mike McCarthy, and I was fascinated by his show.
KELI?
What?
Was that KELI?
No, it was KAKC. They were the competitors.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he was fascinating. And also, you know, Gaylord Sartain's old show.
Yes.
I was very young, but I would stay up to watch it, and just what they presented was fascinating to me. And he ended up doing a show on KAKC, a radio show, and both of them together, it was fascinating. And I started calling Mike McCarthy, who was such a mentor to me, and he was so kind to me. And I learned that when people approach me and bring me their music young bands, I want them to feel comfortable, because I was that kid, and when the big morning radio guy was so kind to me, and he started letting me tell jokes on the radio, I think I sounded more like Mickey Mouse than I do now. And then I ended up, I did the school lunch menu. I was the voice of Tulsa Public Schools lunch menus 5 days a week when I was in junior high. And that was my first radio, but it just kind of grew from there. And I remember at one point going, gosh, I was getting ready to be in a band, and I was like, gosh, do I do radio or a band? And it's funny because, of course, I've done both for many years.
Right.
But it was just fascinating. And then
because you've kept that thing going. I mean, there's been moves like from the Edge, and you took it to RSU for a little while.
Yeah.
And
well, I did at my first radio show. I did a show from 90 to 94, and cut me back if I'm giving you too much history. You know,
no.
Blah 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 blah.
There is no. We're not in any way bound by a time limit.
Okay, folks, get ready. You got your sleeping bags? Because here we go.
You said you were going to bring it.
We from 90 to 94, I did a show called Technopolis, and that featured all heavy electronic music. And I got into that when, again, back at SRO, which played alternative music.
Right.
And a good analogy for SRO was like New York Studio 54 in Tulsa.
I remember the
you
balcony.
Had yuppies next to club kids to everybody, and it was very much like that. And the music was fast. It was different, but I wanted to know that music as well as I knew a lot of rock music. And music's always been a big thing for me, the details and stuff.
The bartender I was telling you about at SRO told me a joke the first time I was in there that let me know that it was okay to say things publicly. He actually told me a joke. He wadded up a napkin, he put it in his mouth, and he spit it out, and he goes, "You know what that is?" I go, "No." And he goes, "That's Christopher Reeve throwing out the first pitch of the World Series." And ever since then, I was like, "You can say that? Oh, dude, I've got material." You know, that was like my, let's do this.
So I did the show. I did it from 90 to 94, and I was on 3 different stations.
You almost laughed. Go on with your story.
No, it's
almost broke you.
Well, you know, I've got ADD, so huh? What? Who? What? Where were we? Squirrel.
90 to 94.
So I did Technopolis, and again, that was fun to do that. And then in '95, the station Z104 became The Edge.
Yeah.
And
that was post Banana and Mel in the Morning.
Yeah, and when they turned over to The Edge, they approached me about doing my Technopolis show. So I went in and did a new demo of the show, and was ready to do Technopolis on The Edge. And I literally brought it down the hall on a cassette. You remember what a cassette is? It was a phonograph record. It was a telegraph, and I was walking down the hall to the program director, and I said, "I've got that." And he said, "Well, I want to talk to you." They had started Homegrown, and Jared, the drummer from Admiral Twin, was their first host.
He's going to be here next week.
Oh, well, he's a great guy and very talented. And he was the first host, and after about 6-9 months, he had left, and they'd made a decision. And they said, "Well, we want to talk to you about taking over Homegrown." Many people thought I started Homegrown, but I didn't.
So you started with a pre-produced show. You weren't even going into the studio live to present it?
I was. I had redid my show Technopolis to let them hear it, because that's what they were talking about.
But it was a whole show on the cassette, or
yeah, I just went in and recorded a show, just so them.
So they would just pretty much put your
show in. I wasn't
and
thinking about
play.
voice tracking. No. They didn't do Technopolis.
Oh, okay. But
ADD,
I mean the way the way you
Who's
had
got
it,
ADD?
The way you had it set up, though, you weren't actually going to be in the studio.
Where are we?
You weren't actually going to do the studio thing. You weren't going to do the show live. It was already produced.
No, I wanted him to hear Technopolis, but I wanted to do a updated. It had been
so
a
few
few months. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Gosh.
Go on.
And so they said, "No, we'd like you to take over Homegrown."
Yeah.
So that just changed my direction, and then in spring of '96, I took over Homegrown, and then they couldn't get rid of me. So my first run with Homegrown was 8 years, and it started off as a 30-minute show. And Homegrown, by the way, for you who are around the world, it was just a showcase on local musicians and music. And let me take this time to say, Tulsa has always had incredible variety of music, from reggae to rock to country to Celtic. It's in Tulsa, and I would put Tulsa's music, I've said this before, up against any music around the world. That's how good it is, and it holds up. And
Homegrown was my inspiration for starting XC Radio.
Well,
I had that internet radio station where it was nothing college B-sides, indie, and local music.
And listening to you do your spiel, it makes me feel like it's Homegrown. I appreciate that. So I went from a 30-minute show to an hour show, then bumped up to a 2-hour show. And so I did that for 8 years originally, to 2004. And then after that, I left. I did 2 shows at RSU Radio. I did Local Flavors, I took that show over, another local show, and the guy Charlie Seven, who was
Charlie
the host,
was still there. Him and Misty doing morning.
He said, you know, my inspiration for doing Local Flavors was Homegrown. And I thought, well, that's full circle. He left. I took it over, and then I love 70s rock, and so I also started doing a show I created called This 70s Show, not to be confused with That 70s Show.
Right.
And what was funny is, and so I was doing 2 shows for RSU, and I had Morning Mouth Mike McCarthy. He came and did a bunch of voiceover stuff for me as promos for my 70s show, which was an homage to him. So we did that, and then that's when I started doing the podcast, Hometown Heroes Tulsa. So I left the Edge. There was a few months. All of a sudden, I'm doing 2 radio shows and the podcast. And again, be careful what you wish for. But it was just fun to keep hopping and popping. I kind of like working that way.
I like be careful what
Did
you
I
wish.
lose you anywhere in that?
No.
Where were we? What chapter are we on?
I don't. Be careful what you wish for doesn't scare me. As long as you're wishing for something big. You know, I don't believe in oh, well, I had this dream where, you know, I was eating crayons, and then be careful what you wish for. I was eating crayons one day. You know, who cares? You know, but whenever you're saying, be careful what you wish for, because I got my dream to do 2 radio shows and podcasts, That's you.
That's what I mean. And then for that, I did some other podcast, 80 episodes for a thing featuring Oklahoma music, but it was just a blast, and all these things were coming. Then I did the stuff at RSU Radio, which is Rogers State University, by the way, and that was outside of Tulsa, and twice a week when I drive up there, I drive past the building where the Edge was at,
Right.
and which 5 minutes from my house, and then the Edge called me back and asked me to come back, and I thought, 5 minutes from my house, coming back to and the show had about 8 hosts when I left, and it was changing host a lot, and it had kind of lost, I think, its direction a little bit. So when they asked me to come back, it was not an easy thing to have to contemplate. I was like, yeah, I'm in, and everybody at the Edge and everything, acted like it was Cleopatra coming to see Mark Anthony, the big scene. They treated me so great, and it was just cool to be back, but the reaction from people was great. And I did that through 2017, I think it was, and just had a great run doing it, and hopefully having putting it back to the balance it needed, I think.
Are you still doing a weekly radio show?
You got that fan going. It's kind of hope it helps with my rock look a little bit there.
You're actually the first person who's had here to react to that fan. That's including the 3 ladies I've had on the show.
So do I need to be doing some of this? Just trying to, with the fan. I like this. I need to have this with me all the time.
Are you doing anything are you still doing a weekly radio show?
I'm making comedy right now.
Or
say that again?
Are you still doing a weekly radio show?
I'm not. I took some time off when I left the Edge. They want to do some changes there, and they wanted me to pull back on some of the genres I was featuring, and I didn't feel like that's the type of show that I'm known for.
Right.
So I thought, okay, I think I'm good here, and I'm going to bring back Hometown Heroes podcast. That was fun to do, and there's kind of a void without there being a show. At least doing that, but you're doing that, and I think that's important. And I've always, for years, I've said I'd rather there be 15 shows featuring local music.
Yeah.
There's room for everybody, and if you maybe don't like how one person presents it, there's another option there. And I just feel like I want to get back in it because it's too much a part of who I am, and I want to do that.
This question live from chat: who is your favorite local band? Without burning any bridges.
No, I've got a lot of them that I like.
Team Galaxy's his favorite.
Well, I know them real well, so I don't know if they're my favorite because I know them too well. No,
I wouldn't know the current catalog. I'd have to go back to something like Dave Lawn, or something that I really enjoyed from when I was hitting clubs all the time.
Bands that I think, again, my only hesitation is I don't want to leave anybody out. That's important to me, but there's bands like Nuns that are incredible, FM Pilots, and again, there's a few others maybe I'll think of it while we're doing this interview, but there's just so many great bands and so many different genres that are covered, and Tulsa's always right there in the pocket.
We had Pop Secret / Jiffy Trip for a while. That I thought was going to make the move nationally.
Fanzine was another one. Again, the history in just the last 20 years is incredible.
Nixon's, but that'd be more Norman,
Oklahoma
City
area.
Yeah.
But, and those of you might be familiar with Oklahoma music history. In the 70s, there's what they call the Tulsa Sound.
Yep.
Leon Russell and all these guys, Steve Ripley and these guys, and Eric Clapton's band was virtually all Tulsa musicians. And there was just this vibe going around, and it was good. But the Tulsa Sound, historic and incredible, and a lot of people were looking at Tulsa, but the Tulsa Sound did not stop in 1979. It has continued and goes, and just always building on its history. I always get a kick when I will interview young bands because they're new and they love it, and they always say, "Oh, the music scene's great," and I always want to remind them in a kind way that. It just didn't start when they got interested. There's a history.
Country music did not start with Garth Brooks, people.
Yes, he's a big part of it, but yeah, there's a whole exactly that's a good point. is it's just it's important, and there is a whole history. Not that they have to know it, but there's this whole thing that has brought it to you. We can always use more places in Tulsa to play, and sometimes there's more than others. But the abundance of talent all over the place.
All right, there is an online question. Have you ever met a drummer that is sane?
That is sane?
Sane.
Well, of course not. I don't think you can be sane to be a drummer. And remember, I go back to one of my favorites, Keith Moon, who was completely insane and incredible. But
But yeah, not ordinary people can drive a car into a swimming pool that's on the second floor.
yeah. But drummers have their own rhythm.
Oh my God, no.
And it would have been good to have a drummer go, but I touch.
Oh, of course. You need the drummer for the
Yeah.
drummer joke. I was going to ask you,
Then
because
please do.
Tulsa has been labeled, I'll put it that way, as a cover band town.
Not true.
Well, in the sense that it's really hard to get a gig at a local bar unless you're playing tunes that the patrons already know. They don't. If you can mix in a couple of your originals, but they really want you there to play songs that the patrons already know. And in that sense, we are kind of under that label.
Well, and another great question. But that's what, going back to SRO and then my club Icon, I was booking national. We were a dance club. But we also had national acts, and I always booked locals. And here's the thing: yes, there's more places for cover bands to play, and sometimes because they're cover places, there's a certain crowd that wants to hear the songs they know, but there is a crowd that wants to hear local music.
Freebird.
Yeah, but it's not. It's a little bit more of a challenge. But I had. A good friend of mine who plays music in Tulsa for years. Somebody years ago, and there's always that debate: covers versus locals. I've done both. I like doing both. You know, people that I love. Robert Plant does covers. There's YouTube videos of him recently doing a bunch of Elvis stuff with a band. But I mean, to me, it's the deal. But it's not one of the other. A friend of mine said, you know what? And some of these guys do covers, and then they'll go in the studio and record their originals. But a friend of mine said, you know what? I'm a musician. He played, and he says, I wish my other job was playing in a cover band. And meaning played original music, but his day job was delivering pizzas.
Oh, right.
And the point he was making was, if your paying job is playing covers, playing covers is the closest. It's playing music. But there's more, and there's more better paying gigs for cover bands. That's always going to be a part of it. And if you choose to do originals, there's a little bit more of a limitation. But you've got to decide what really works for you. You know,
you got to have that work hard.
But so
what would you consider?
There's lots of original music in Tulsa. Lots.
What would you consider the Who or the Rolling Stones, who aren't
Or
really
Led Zeppelin? Or Jimi Hendrix?
No,
or the
no,
Cream?
no. I'm talking about current touring.
You keep doing
acts.
this to me. No. You.
Okay, I'm talking about
next to you.
current touring acts,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Like the Who still tour, the Stones still tour. They're not releasing any new albums. They're playing their old favorites. They're a cover band, but they're covering their own songs basically.
Well, okay. The Stones. 3-4 years ago, they released what was it, Blue and Lonesome, and it was all blues covers.
Okay.
And they are working on a new album, but it's been a few years since they've released. But they've been releasing, every few years, original music album. But I understand they are working on releasing a new album, all originals.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when that's going to come out. They're the Stones; they can do whatever they want. Same thing with the Who. The Who released their first album about 4 or 5 years ago, first new album, and it was great.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
they will this year are going to release another album. They're on tour right now. They just
Okay,
finished
that's
up,
fair.
and they're releasing a new album. So some of the acts, you're right, some of them still want to be creative and release new stuff, but they all know, you can read their interviews, they know that their people want to hear their songs. You're right, they're kind of their own cover band, but they also know that's people want to hear the stuff they know.
Do you like
So-
soul?
What?
Do you like soul?
Yeah, of course.
Do you? Because I keep trying to get out. About once a year, Gladys Knight comes to a casino around here, and I've not got out there. And chances of being able to see her are getting more and more limited the older
True.
she gets. I mean, do you find yourself in that mindset where you're like, oh, I've loved this person for years. If I don't see him now, I may not get to see him again. Do you make an effort to go get to visit acts that.
Well, yeah, and as a guy that's been doing that for years, my idols, my heroes, Mick Jagger, or the Stones, the Who, Robert Plant, folks that have been doing it. They're 75. They're in their mid 70s. Mick Jagger just turned 75. Roger Daltrey, all these guys, and I'm a guy. They've got a good 20 years on me, and they're still haven't slowed down at all, and that's inspiring to know those guys do. But yes, as we know, the Who have lost 2 members through the years. It happens, and yeah, sometimes you don't think about it until it's too late. But yeah, you want to see these folks,
Let's see. Ask him if there's any songs that he will tell people to shut up to listen to. For me, it's Little Wing by Hendrix.
That's a great song.
But is there a song that when you tell people, shh, you need to hear this? Is there anything that you quiet the crowd for?
You mean live or well, no, just I guess song you want folks to hear.
Yeah, you're just trying to share a song with somebody. You're like, shut up, you got to hear this. You know what
Well,
I mean?
sometimes, like if I'm in the car, I tell people, if I'm in the car by myself, I'm listening to music loud.
Yeah.
But when I'm with somebody, it's hard for me to because we want to talk. So I sometimes like my alone time just to listen to my music. So there's a lot of songs I think people should shh and listen to, but I don't know that I've ever say that to people. But
I would.
You want them
Shut your
to.
mouth. This is a good song.
Yeah.
It's me. No. Busy as you are, do you find time to unwind? Is there anything you like to? Do you enjoy times at the cinema or?
Well, I love movies, of course, but I love collecting music. I love, I still like to buy music. I still
you
like
have
to
vinyl?
buy CDs. Oh, I have a huge vinyl collection, and funny you should ask that because I hadn't looked through it in a while, and I've got it in storage, and I went and looked at it, and I forgot what great shape my vinyl records are in. The covers, I took good care of them, but nowadays, now that it's so huge and come back, my collection is 98% of the albums are in pristine condition, and I'm like, wow. And so I haven't brought a record player back in. I have the old Icon turntables, so I may have to hook those up. And
a couple of Christmases back, my sister brought me a turntable because the one I had I couldn't find a needle for because apparently that's not a thing anymore to find turntable needle. So she bought me like this new, and it has a USB. I can actually record the vinyl directly to the computer. First thing played on it, a 74-year-old Glenn Miller album, and it sounded amazing.
That's
it
awesome.
sounded amazing, and then I went for the Harry James.
And another thing that I thought was good, the last few years, walking into Best Buy.
More and more you're seeing them.
Well, but I went into Best Buy, and there's a whole section that had all these vinyl albums up. And for me, it was such a flashback because, again, music was so important to me. I like to know the details and the history of it. I'm a history fan in general, and particularly of music. But to walk in, it was so cool. It was like being a kid again, going into the record stores. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Going in Peaches over 51st and Sheridan. After Earl's Party Supply took that place over, they still did all they could to maintain the Grumman Chinese.
Yeah, and those are really crumbling and falling apart.
There was like a Ario Speedwagon was there.
Yeah,
and
I was there for some of those.
It's amazing.
But yeah, it was great. And then, but it was just it's cool to see that have held on like it has, and now it's just monstrously big, the vinyl thing. And like I said,
go to Barnes and Noble and they have a vinyl section.
They do, and
it's become pop.
I wasn't waving at somebody. There was a. Wait,
it was hair in his face.
Yeah, because
he doesn't have because of
the
fan. Our special effects.
I'm glad to know I've got one fan. Thank you.
That's it.
2, 1.
That's his biggest fan. It's 10 inches in diameter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, but yeah, that's really cool. And again, I was just so pleased to find my own huge vinyl collection. But yeah.
I've got
we were
Motown
kind of
and
jumping
Elvis
back and
45s.
forth. What?
I've got Motown and Elvis 45s out the yin yang because my mom was one of those rare birds that would just in the 1960s loved Motown music even though she was pasty as can be.
But that's the love of music. But for me, even collecting music and listening to music, I'm what I call a lot of the acts I love today are the acts I loved as a kid, as we talked about, the Who, Zeppelin, and what I mean as an active fan is I still currently, I read on them, magazines, books. I will buy the new books that come out on them. So I keep very up on their history, and I'm always very into learning their history. So
And they're writing
that's
new
kind of a
history, some
hobby
of
for me too. Yeah, making new history. So when I say active fan, that's what I do. Same with Elvis. I'm always reading and researching. That's just one of my big hobbies. So that's a big thing for me.
Okay. Eventually, all these conversations kind of deteriorate into what we would call food porn,
Okay.
where people generally
I know where you're going with that. I mean, it's just obvious.
people generally want
Banana jokes.
No. People generally
yes.
want to know what whoever sits in that chair, what they like to eat. Are they adventurous? Do they like spicy food? I don't know
You said
why.
food porn, so I'm.
Yeah, because there are some people that enjoy it so much they get excited about talking about food.
I thought you.
So that, no, we're not talking
What kind
about.
of video is this? What is going on here?
Just leave your clothes on, sir.
No, it's you. What about walk into?
There are still some
food.
questions.
Well, what about the food thing? Are we getting away from that now?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the questions because that went really bad.
No, it didn't.
That went horrible.
No, I thought I was going to tell you about some of my favorite foods. This is an outrage. I don't know that I can work like this.
Outrage. Which concert do you wish you could attend if time travel were possible? Ooh, that's such a good. That will put you in
Well, band?
concerts.
Well, that would be.
Yeah, I'm leaving it
Okay,
vague.
gotcha.
If you want
Okay,
to talk
all right.
about, if you want to talk about.
But if I answer, you're going to say it went bad, and we didn't even get to.
No.
I didn't get
no.
to answer the food thing. I'm still on that, but we'll go to this.
Well, we'll go to the food later. Let's go to the
Places, people. Let's be professional.
The viewers right now. First positions. Okay. Which concert do you wish you could attend if time travel were possible?
Jimi Hendrix. That would be one.
Always.
A Jimi Hendrix show. Period. Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1970. Led Zeppelin, 1970.
You would take that over Jimi Hendrix in Monterey in '67.
Well, I could. There's a lot. I'm just trying.
You know what I mean? Like pick the person, the
Jimi Hendrix and the Who, Monterey, 67.
Yeah, when they were trying to decide who was going to follow the other one.
Yes, and the coin
What
flip.
a great
Coin flip
story.
and who won.
Would you like to tell that story?
I
Because
will.
you're a music historian, and I know the story, and it's beautiful. But please do.
Well, Monterey Pop Festival, of course, most you may know, but there's some that may not. It was one of the big first music festivals. There was jazz festivals and things like that, but this was the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967 in Monterey, California. And it was one of the first ones they had the rock folks, let's say, the pop, and they had the Mamas and the Papas, and they had lots of different acts. And this was Jimi Hendrix, and who this kind of was one of the things that actually began to put both bands on the map in the starting in America. And they played there, and their acts are very similar. Hendrix, did his thing and feedback and all that. Well, Pete Townsend of the Who was also doing that, and he'd kind of a few years earlier had kind of been developing that. Pete Townsend does say in his autobiography that he had when Hendrix came to England, he recommended the Stax, the Marshall Stax, and he says, I always regret giving him the weapons of mass destruction that he did.
Right.
But let's say they borrowed from each other to various degrees. And so Monterey Pop Festival and the Who had this big Destructo act, and Hendrix and the Who felt like Hendrix was kind of copping part of what they did, so they wanted to go on. They were arguing back and forth who was going to go first, and they flipped a coin, and the Who won, so they went on first.
It's funny because it'd be counterintuitive. Today, the best act wants to go on last.
Yeah.
But neither of those two wanted to follow each other.
But someone wanted to claim the thing, and both were monumental historic performances. The Who were still kind of developing what they became back in '69 and onward, and Hendrix kind of had who he was at that point. Watch it on YouTube, get the DVD or the Blu-ray, or find it. That way you can see and know what we're talking about. But and that very well may have made what Hendrix decided to burn his guitar.
Yeah, because the Who got out there. Townsend breaks his guitar, kicks Keith Moon's drum set over, does a thank you, good night, and walks off. And Hendrix is like, well, okay, if I have to top that, I'm torching my favorite object in the world, and I'm going to keep it plugged in while it happens, and I'm going to pray to it.
And they had played some shows together, but the other, I would say, absolutely historic time they both played was Woodstock in August of 1969. And
Right.
again, that performance, and again, lots of bands played it, but that performance literally started putting them on that. And then there was the movie of Woodstock, and Hendrix is just incredible, and the Who were incredible. But the Who had at that point clicked into gear to become one of the greatest live bands, and
The greatest band of all time.
and if you read anything or see anything, and again, watch it, find the clips and watch it. They were both just
Oh man, we've got some
incredibly
good ones
awesome.
here. Hey Zeus, all up in me says Pink Floyd 1972 at the Coliseum in LA. Great pick. But then Guyver, Lincolnshire's favorite son, first concert, 86 Queen at Wembley.
yeah.
I think we might have a winner for that one. That would have been an awesome show.
Talking Live Aid, perhaps. Or,
86?
no, Live Aid was
86.
85, I think.
I don't know. He was just
Anyway.
saying that was his first concert. And I was like,
Gotcha.
what a first concert to go to.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, my first concert was Stryper and White Lion. Not the same. Not the same at all. Are you laughing at my first concert?
No, I was laughing at you laughing about it.
I have to.
Uh,
I have to. Actually, that's
not
not
everybody
true.
can see Elvis as their first concert, especially now. It's really hard.
Yeah, that's not exactly true because that was the follow-up year. The year before that, I saw Stryper and Hurricane, and there was nobody lined up against the stage for Hurricane. Stryper was actually the headliner, if I remember right, and Hurricane was this. I would say a cliche hair band. They had no gimmick or anything. They were just up there rocking out as hard as they could with their hair as long as they could. It was kind of that thing. But I remember me and my sister went, and there was no one in the front row. Hurricane's up on stage rocking out hard, and there are 4 ladies pressed up against the stage with no one around them reaching for these guys. This is like the loneliest groupie group photo you've ever seen.
Hey, I had another thought, by the way. I don't want to get too off it, but the thing about
Shiny corner.
the live music thing.
Yeah.
I have seen great, hugely big bands from Oklahoma play to 1,000 people, and I've seen them play to 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And sometimes the crowd, you can't, and never blame the crowd. Never ever blame them. We want to see people support music, by the way, but never don't blame the crowd. You know, people come out, and sometimes back to the cover band thing. I don't know why I'm bringing this back up. It just popped into my head.
Go.
But the cover bands, you know, it's more about in some cases a live jukebox. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not necessarily about.
That's a good way of looking at it.
There's nothing wrong with
Unplug
that.
the jukebox. We want these guys to play the songs live.
Yeah, so that sometimes when you're playing original music, the whole idea is more focused on the band. And some reason I don't know why that came to me at that point.
No,
but I
that's
thought
a
that was
great-
absolutely important to bring up. And
Sure.
I'm glad I did.
My father got to see Elvis live. It's his favorite story to tell me. Of course it is. Elvis was in a generation of. Okay, here's the thing. You had the generation before that was the radio generation, the people that sat around the radio and they heard things, and then you had the television generation that got to enjoy Elvis. The internet generation wouldn't get it because you have access to everything. You don't have to wait till the guy comes to your town to see him, like you did when these mass. And that's how the acts. I think how the reputations ballooned so much is because you didn't have daily access to these people. You know what I mean?
That's what I mean.
You would get a little story in the National Enquirer, you know, or maybe or Hit Parade or Rolling Stones would do an article on it, and then they would come to your town, but you didn't have the kind of mass volume of information about these people. So when you did get to see them, it was special.
Yeah,
It was-
it was a different era, and then back to the Elvis thing. I
Yeah.
know too many details about Elvis,
Go.
but I'm great
Go on.
for a trivia. His favorite toothpaste, Colgate. Who needs to know that?
Who is his favorite Guthrie, Arlo, or Woody? Oh my! That's the gold medal of questions.
Well, I think you have to obviously Woody is historic and has become historic. He wasn't originally much loved by his hometown, as it became with history, and when he was alive. Arlo, having worked with Arlo, his storytelling is just unmatched.
I love that about people. If they can tell
Yeah.
me it. Roy Clark was
Very
the same
interesting.
way.
Yeah.
You know, he would tell you about times that he hosted the Tonight Show and Talking to Uncle, you know, or Colonel Parker trying to get Elvis to come on when he was hosting, and
Yeah.
his stories are they're out of this world. You know, it's kind of like when you hear Paul McCartney talking about music in the 70s. It's like, well, Jimmy didn't know how to tune his guitar, so Eric showed him, and it's all first name basis. Like, wait a minute, he's talking about Hendrix and Clapton?
Yeah.
You know, and they're just so nonchalant, but the stories are beautiful.
Yeah,
And
I never can get enough of that.
what was the last this is a question in two parts. What was the last performer that was a jackass to you, and who shocked you by being humble?
I don't know if the what comes to mind when I was asked that about who was a jackass.
Mm-hmm.
And
it doesn't have to be that they had like this
yeah, but
massive
I've
rider.
got, here's what came to mind.
Okay.
And the thing is, being in Tulsa and knowing, and once I knew that I and we and the people that work with me and for me were good at what we do, presenting concerts and taking care of things. You get a confidence, not arrogance, but a confidence knowing we know how to do things. And sure, you get people that would come to Tulsa, and and this particular act, this was at Kane's Ballroom, and it was the tour manager, and the band was Fuel, and the tour manager was just. And you guys remember the band Fuel?
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay, Fuel are a great band, no issues there. But as you know, those in Tulsa know Kane's Ballroom. When I was there running Kane's and booking it, we'd have like they do now. You'd have several dates in a row, and that wears you out and the crew out. And they had an early load in that morning. It was like something like 9 o'clock in the morning, and I got there at like 8 o'clock, and the tour manager was already knocking on the door, and he was irritated because nobody was at the Canes yet. And I said, we've had a string of shows, and the guys will be here like clockwork before 9 o'clock. But it was just started off like that, and I thought, okay, here we go, And this guy hadn't been to Tulsa, didn't like the streets, the lights, the sky, everything.
Yeah, we're just some hillbilly town in the middle of the map.
Well, and it was kind of annoying. I thought, okay, and we'll still be here when he's gone. Who knows where he is? I can't remember his name or anything about him. Never worked with him since then.
and you win anyway because you still have to explain to people who Fuel is because their dot on the music timeline.
It's nothing
is
against
very
Fuel,
tall.
nothing at all against them. But sometimes the crew people are the ones. But he came in, and then you're actually going to take the position that most of the bands are great people, but the people who surround them have this bravado that I work for so and so you're a nobody. Sometimes that will happen. And so he came in, and then he walked in the office, and I'm just like, okay, it's going to be one of those days. I think the show was a near sellout if it hadn't sold out. Then he comes in, and he brings an ad that we were running in one of the local papers, and he was annoyed because it was the wrong photo. And I look at it, and sometimes when you're buying ads and print ads, as the kids say, there's time deadlines. And I remember specifically that their press agent had not sent us the press kit, emailed us, sent us the photo we needed for deadline for this ad. So we used the photo we got, and the tour manager was annoyed by that, and it was so simple. And I told him, I said, hey, you know what? We didn't get your PR people's press kit in time, and that was it. And I was like. And then I got annoyed, and I went and found another a local magazine with a different picture, and I said, "Is this one okay, or is their haircut wrong?" And he looked at me and said, "You don't have to be that way." And I said, "You don't have to be that way."
That's right.
I said, "You sit back. You're going to make the day tough, and I know you make the day. You've got to make the tough for your crew and everybody. We'll do our job. You're going to have a great show."
So you guys were trying to get you guys were running deadlines for Urban Tulsa, The World, and Tribune.
For
we used to have
lots
the
of
afternoon.
things. And it was so it was just annoying. And he actually stopped. He goes, I'm really sorry. He apologized. He said, I've been having a bad week. And from that point on, it turned him around. I just thought we were going to butt heads, but sometimes you just can't contain yourself. And so that guy was particular. There's been others, incidents, but that's what came to mind when they asked that question.
The flip side of that coin was, who shocked you by being humble?
Lots of people were great. David Byrne from the Talking Heads. We had him at Kane's. It was an amazing show, by the way. And
wow.
I
Wow.
but and sometimes being at Cain's, because it's a world famous
Venue.
music venue, they will they'll come in and they're kind of in awe of it. And Talking Heads had played there, and he came in and we were just sitting there for probably 30 minutes just talking, just one on one, and people like Beck, when he played the Cain's, he walked around and he said, you know what? I don't want to play anywhere else ever again except Cain's Ballroom. Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters, he's just he's like this, he's just a hangout guy, super cool, and there's lots and lots. Let me pick up those names. I keep dropping those names, but they asked. But that's the thing.
Garth Brooks never told me to name drop, but this one time, me and Robert De Niro were sitting around the coffee shop.
But a lot of folks like that are really, really cool. And I know when another one, it wasn't directly, but I was telling somebody this the other day. But when we brought Morrissey to Tulsa for the first time at the Brady Theater, I think it was 99, 98.
A post-Smith's Morrissey, huh?
Yeah, we were told,
Wow.
don't look at him, don't say hi to him, don't acknowledge him. And I'm like, are we doing Michael Jackson or are we doing Morrissey? And it's just kind of a, you go, wow, I mean, where's this coming from? And there's things like that. There's.
Did everyone really have to abide by that?
I don't know. It was more of a turnoff than anything.
Like you're accidentally walking down the hall and you're like, oh, it's Morrissey. I mean, what do you do?
People get caught up in their own little world sometime, but that's. It was a great show, and I think it was a near sellout. But it was just sometimes you go, what? Do they tell everybody this, or is it
I always
just?
wondered about that because Morrissey leads the Smiths, and then he goes on tour, and the band backing him up on his solo tour is the Smiths.
Yeah.
Why? I'm
knows?
not in the Smiths anymore. Who's the guitar player with? Well, he's the Smiths guitar player. That's the Smiths drummer. That's the Smiths bass player. It's still the Smiths.
And
sorry. Ask him if he's a fan of Townes Van Zandt.
yeah, of course, absolutely. That's a good question.
Yeah. It's kind of an arcane one.
Yeah. And other bands that I like, not that you just asked, but
Hey, could you tell me some other bands you like?
I love Cheap Trick. I've been a lifelong Cheap Trick fan. Are you kidding? Robin Zander's vocals?
Well, yeah.
What do you mean,
well, because I don't pay. I'm
do you mean,
sorry.
well?
I don't pay attention to the vocals, but the guitars.
The vocalists do. Well, I love the whole band. He's one of my favorite.
Rick Nielsen, I'm
vocalists.
like,
Rick Nielsen is incredible.
I love Cheap Trick, but I always I love the Cheap Trick guitarist is probably
I love them all.
more.
Well, I don't just like Pete Townsend. I love Pete Townsend.
Yes.
Cheap Trick. So I discovered them on their second album called In Color. That's when I discovered them as a wee lad. And I know you're thinking, he's not that old. I just will not go away. But
that's what they say about me.
Well, there you go.
Sarcastically, but yes.
When we were, I first saw the first time, and I got to work with Cheap Trick and things like that. But the first time I saw Cheap Trick, they opened for the band Kansas in Tulsa at the Fairgrounds Pavilion. I want to say it maybe was 79. I believe 78, 79.
So they had to move the Mid-South Wrestling ring out of the way for that one.
Yeah. And I was the only one that knew Cheap Trick, and everybody thought Bunny Carlos, the drummer, because the way he dressed was a really old man, but 30 was probably old then. But I was the only one that knew he wasn't. But that was my first time I saw Cheap Trick. And by the way, I love Cheap Trick. I've met them. Not disappointed by them. Still an active fan. To me, some of their absolute best music you've never heard on the radio, and that's
probably that would go for everyone.
Many of their radio hits I like, but are not my favorites. But great catalog, great band.
Did you enjoy the 80s?
And Mommy's all right.
The 80s
All
resurgence
right.
of some of these bands.
They just seem a little weird.
Like where George Harrison popped back
I
up.
want you to want me. Stop me.
Where George Harrison came back in the mid 80s and Cheap Trick, and there was like a late 80s revival of bands from a decade earlier. And
Cheap Trick have never gone away. They have.
Well, I realize that, but some of the music was a little bit watered down, or it was made. It seemed like they were making more. They cared more about making the video because MTV was a thing, and that was So they were more video oriented than music oriented.
I think it was the trend of the time, and many times the record labels, at least years ago, they had a lot more power than a lot of them do now because of the independence and everything you can do with your own music.
Right.
But back then, the labels, just because you're a big artist or you're rock stars, you don't always have say so. The labels kind of call the shots. And when video came big, bands for various degrees of success needed to toe the line.
Do you want to talk about the change in the business model? Because the business model was...
No.
Oh, you don't?
I'm through talking. Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Anytime.
Whatever you want to talk about.
Well, let's just say pre-digital, you had... If you were a garage band, that's 100% of garage bands, 100% of the wannabe music people. But if you could get a gig, that would immediately cut out 10% of your... or if you could make your own album or your own, cassette, a demo, that would eliminate like another 40% of the competition the more you moved up. And basically you were just trying to send things out and try to be heard on a radio station or a record company. Whereas now, most people are like, I'm not even going to bother with that. I'm going to make a track in my own house and I'm going to sell it on Apple. I'm going to sell it on iTunes. And, and the business model has changed so much. How much power do record companies have in this business model?
Well, that's why it's changed drastically, and that's why they're trying to figure out what to do when independent music, and that's a
broad term,
started really getting big in the 90s. A lot of these labels, the big labels, were buying independent labels so they could.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden, they had a department that was featured. And they were trying to figure it out. But now with social media and all the aspects you were just talking about, you can make music. You can do great shows like this. There's lots of things that you can do. People have more access. Quality is always going to be important. But even as one of my aspects of who I am as a radio personality, I would get music that someone made in their home, at their bedroom, which was just as good as any big studio production they had done, and then to get some that aren't that good, and there's a quality trying to be lo-fi, and then there's an unintended quality, but it's changed so much. Just like how many artists now are being discovered because they've got a YouTube video.
Right.
Or aspect. It's completely shifted of how people can access things and reach things. And again, I keep referencing myself. If when I was a kid, if I had YouTube and I could have done videos on there like pushing toys or anything, it would have been incredible for me. I was making cassette tapes, my own little cassette tapes, pretending radio with me and my friends.
We were talking about this I was talking about this with a friend 2 nights ago on stream. How we had to, if we wanted to learn a song, you had to fast rewind, play, rewind, play,
That's
rewind.
so great you brought that up.
Whereas nowadays, there's actually a tutorial on YouTube how to play "Eruption" by Van Halen.
I've got one for you.
Okay, go on.
So again, and I keep talking about back in the day when I was a kid.
Nothing wrong.
And let me tell you something, that my father, and it's true, and it may apply to comedians. You'll have to tell me that because I'm not funny. 3, 2, 1 he said musicians stop maturing at 13, and I think that's always been true. So,
Oh my God. That's so true.
What did you just ask me? Hello, I got off track now. We're talking about.
I don't know. We were talking about business model. We've been jumping around a lot.
Well, there was something
There is.
I just threw us off. I was got a great answer for what you were asking me.
No, about about how we used to have to rewind.
Oh, okay. So when I started and I started writing lyrics down, and I still have all that stuff to a fault. I have my own personal archives of lots of stuff, but legal pads. I would handwrite lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
But so you would have the record. We were talking about vinyl earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So as a singer, my job was to get the lyrics down, and you'd listen to it, write it down, and it was always back and forth, and it was a lot of work to get the needle back in. It was just excruciating.
If you wanted it bad enough, you had to work hard back in the day.
My high school girlfriend, I at one point asked her if she would help me write lyrics down, and she said sure. And I don't know what I always laugh about this because she would give me these pages of lyrics, but what she heard was absolutely not what they were singing. And
what's the best case scenario that
well,
one?
I was trying to remember now. I remember, but I can't. It's not coming to me. But it was so just not even close. You know, people will make up their lyrics, but what she was hearing, and it was comical. So I remember laughing about that, and I kept one of those sheets because it was like, what is she hearing? So that didn't work, so I did that. And nowadays, fast forward to what the kids are calling the 21st century.
Yeah, accurate.
It's so nice to be able to go up and put up lyrics on Google, and then be able to print them and adjust them to however the order you need or whatever. But it's so easy than the olden days of the vinyl or rewind.
Me and Jared Gullahair were talking about this like a couple of 3 weeks ago. I was over at his apartment. We were talking about going down the Sound Warehouse on the corner of 15th and Peoria, where the American Cafe is or whatever now. You go in there, buying a cassette tape, coming outside, opening it, putting it in, and then reading the liner notes, reading the lyrics, and smelling corn tortillas. You remember how like every cassette tape you opened up, and as soon as you unfold it, it's like corn tortillas. Because you have your 30-day guarantee sticker from Sound Warehouse where you could bring it back in 30 days. Remember that?
Yes, but and I read a lot. I read a lot of books, and I said about, and I've talked to other people that are into what kids are calling books.
Yeah,
That's it. And by the way, dramatic pause, and continue. They, but some books have a neat smell to them, strange smell, and albums. You're talking about that would have a unique, and vinyl would have a great smell to them. I don't remember tortillas.
No,
there was that smell, that fascination, and with albums there was more to read, bigger.
Yeah.
And I was just I've started a new friendship with a graphic designer that lives in Wales that still designs albums and books for the Who and Robert and lots of people. And he is just now back to designing album covers for releases for the Who and various people. And he worked for the company Hypnosis, which was big in the 70s. They did all the Led Zeppelin album covers, all the big intricate, he was part of that.
Did they do Yes?
They may have. I'd have to look and see. But
I love Yes artwork.
They were like the definitive, and all the the Led Zeppelin where you pull out the physical graffiti. That they're the company that did all these complicated things.
Wow.
And he was talking about on his site how it was so great. He never thought he'd be designing album covers again, but his works, and we just started talking back and forth just a few days ago, and I love his work. And as it turns out, I have a huge collection of his works just because of so much he's done. But it was cool to see him doing a medium he started off doing.
There's so many industries wrapped around music.
That's Richard Evans, by the way. Can I say that?
Yeah,
I'm saying it. Richard Evans, graphic designer. Check him out. It's his stuff is incredible, and he's got some interesting blogs about the things he designs. But Richard Evans, graphic designer.
I really didn't realize that there was so much involved in the music business, of course, until I saw Michael Beck and Xanadu as a painter doing large versions of miniature album covers. You remember that, don't you?
Yeah.
And that for me was like, wow. Because that guy couldn't act. That's why I said wow a lot. Let's see, question. If you tell yourself something today to yourself back then, what would it be?
That's really great.
So let me rephrase that.
Okay, please do. Could you rephrase that?
Because he's from
Could you
North.
put that in a form of a question? Oh,
Yeah,
you did.
I did.
Thanks, Alex.
What is something that you think is a bit of wisdom that could have helped you as a younger man? Let's go with that.
Well, Pete Townshend's autobiography called "Who Am I?" came out, and towards the end, he has it where he wrote a letter to his 8-year-old self. And you've heard people do that. I think that's fascinating. And I was just thinking about that again the other day. What would you tell yourself? That you're always going to love music. You're going to love your passion. It's always going to grip. We all know people that maybe don't have a passion about something, and that's no fault, But I was lucky enough to find that passion and fashion for it. But I think I would just tell myself, just do what you're doing. I had quite an imagination as a kid, and just was fascinated by all that. I think I would tell myself, don't get that perm to try to look like Roger Daltrey. I think that was the one regret.
Oh God! Please tell me there's a picture of you in that perm.
Oh yeah. My first band. I've got the curly hair going.
Can we
I'm
see it?
trying to be Roger Daltrey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but I think I would get the perm.
Thank God you weren't into Hendrix.
Yeah, I know.
Big fro with the bandana around it,
Yeah.
tied in a nice knot in the back.
Yeah, and speaking of, I want to tell you this little story that, again, from my childhood. So, listening to AM radio back then, I was an Elton John fan.
Okay.
And he was doing this song called Pinball Wizard, which is originally by The Who. And then when the movie Tommy was getting ready to come out, all I knew is that Elton John was going to be doing Pinball Wizard in it. So my father took me to see the movie Tommy in March of 1975.
Okay.
And I went in, and Elton John is only in the movie during the duration of the song.
Right.
But there was this guy, Roger Daltrey, and I literally walked in, an Elton John fan, and walked out completely, absolutely, 100% mesmerized by Roger Daltrey. And my dad's comment to this day is, that's the weirdest movie I've ever seen. But it changed my interest, and
We were that generation that had a little
that's how I discovered The Who and Pete Townsend and everything.
that had a little AM radio under our pillow
Yeah,
and would listen to music
at
all
night,
night long.
Yeah, that was important and special.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tommy mesmerized. But if I could have just not done the perm.
I have an answer to my question. Don't sub to DubSKI and leave your credit card in the sofa because your dog is chewy as fuck. Chris Poe, I'm sorry. Thank you for the subs to the channel. Sorry about your credit card. Sorry about your dog. Either way, because he's going to be pooping credit card receipts soon.
And the question was?
I didn't hear a question in there. Please, in the form of a question, just like Jeopardy.
What is potato salad?
What is potato salad? You know what? I'm not. That's a perfect segue. Food.
We did that earlier, and you decided
Oh, I
it
got
was-
off of it quick because you started going bananas and sex
No,
toys.
you said food porn.
That's
so
what
I
we
thought,
call it.
Well,
Because people get excited to talk about food. Porn gets people excited. Food.
okay, I was just trying to. That's why I thought you were going
Yeah.
in. Okay, so food.
This is what happens when you have two presenters on the same show. We're both doing this to each other and this and.
Right, like we're doing this. Okay, whatever you say.
What should happen?
Are we going to get back to food, or?
Are you an adventure seeker? Do you like the India Palace or the
Oh yeah.
little Thai here
Yeah.
and there? Are you?
Are you going to ask me what kind of food, what restaurants I like?
No.
I'll wait for them to
because
do that.
I'll wait for them to ask. Because, like I said, they like talking about food. I will ask you this: do you like spicy?
Not really.
So if it burns the tongue, you're like, no.
I am
Do you
not
like
a-
wasabi, where it like gets you up here? Like,
Where it hits you?
you know
physically
where,
hits you?
you
What is
know
this?
like when you
Psychic?
when you eat
Psychic wasabi?
when you eat wasabi or horseradish, you know how it opens up
Psychic?
it opens up your nasal passages.
DubSKI?
Whereas if you
Wasabi?
whereas if you eat a habanero, it burns your tongue. It doesn't really open your nose up like horseradish. would.
Well, I find that sometimes when the
oh, good. I got here during the food portion. Welcome
So,
to the show, Raptor. Thanks for
I
coming.
think I want you to ask me about what restaurants of food I like, but you seem to kind of go there. But then when I show interest, you're like, "Oh, let's change the
He
subject."
started doing 4th of July. What is that? Did you guys?
You are a firecracker.
Oh, I'm going
Boom.
I'm going off the road now.
Boom.
Did you guys perform for any of the 4th of July celebrations?
No, but this is my 10th year. I am the stage manager and MC and put together the one of the big stages at Tulsa's Freedom Fest,
Okay.
which is one of the biggest fireworks events,
Is that the
in the Midwest.
the 21st?
River Parks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we did that again, and it was spectacular.
Do you
Things
are,
in a salad. No, pass. Okay.
You
Famous
are-
presidents for 50.
you seem to find your way into a lot of is it just because you enjoy the community or you want to volunteer? You used to be connected with the Scottish Games and Festival.
Yes. About 9 years I was the entertainment director and
And
MC.
there's always the lights on down in the river that you guys Team Galaxy have caught down there a couple of times performing at the 41st Street Park and
Not all of it's volunteer, but I don't let if
do people call you because they know you're a good event coordinator, or do you just go? Hey, that
everybody
sounds
else
good.
says
I know
no.
somebody on there.
Everybody else says no.
Okay.
No, that's not true. It was a joke, okay? Comedian. In fact, let me tell you this, just so I can throw this in.
Don't turn away from the fucking food. No, we'll get back to the food. Just calm yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Wait.
I'm asking about his benevolence to the
Wait for it.
community.
So, about that is my old high school, which is where I first debuted singing,
Yes.
and it was one of the top 5 greatest experiences, and I've got to do a lot of great things, but it was just such an important impact for me at the time, in recognition of it. But a few years back, the Alumni Association wanted me to go back to my old high school and present some scholarships.
Okay.
And I jokingly said, and Gary Busey had gone to my high school 20, 30 years before I did.
Right.
But I jokingly said, was Gary Busey not available? And so when you say, nobody else available? If you haven't lost the audience at this point.
Technically, Gary Busey hasn't been available since the motorcycle crash.
Very good point. Very good point. So back to, you were asking about the community.
I feel really good about that joke because I know for a fact, I'm 99% sure Gary Busey is not watching this show right now. So.
But he's from Tulsa, okay?
But you really enjoy it. I mean, you're a hometown guy. I mean, you really enjoy the community enough to want to participate in these events and make sure they
Yeah.
go off and do the best that you can do from your own experience. And
I've traveled all over the United States. Love New York, love Seattle, love Austin. But I love living in Tulsa, and I like to bring that inspiration back to Tulsa. Tulsa is a great city, and right now it's just exploding with our downtown area. Things are just incredible. And what's
historic
happening in
venues
Tulsa now is what many of us have always believed that Tulsa could be. And my own involvement is, yes, I like to be involved. It's always nice when you get paid for your work, but that's never a defining moment for me. It's if I want to do the event or not. And that's always been important. And because I just naturally have a lot of interest in areas, and my family's, Scottish, so of course being involved in the Scottish Festival for many years. But I just love being involved and like to be active and do things. And a lot of times when you go, I know I can contribute to a certain event or something going on, that's great. And I've been blessed to be involved with many, many things over my career, and I'm just getting started.
so you really, I mean, this is.
Yes.
I'm always inspired by how much you give. I mean, I see your name in so many different events and just even in.
Do they all say don't be this?
No,
Okay.
but even in just small, it's not even like you've been a massive event coordinator, but maybe this time you're just doing stage direction or something, but you're still getting involved because of your love for the community, and that's. Can one man make a difference? You've been doing it for 30 years.
Wow, that's
what
thanks
I mean?
for saying that. That's really cool. I didn't think of it like that. I just like doing things. I've had peers and different people that have reasons why they won't do things, but sometimes I feel like if you're too busy, for various reasons not wanting to be involved, you miss opportunities or connections or working with people, and I just like being out there. I'm not really I'm not always a great behind the scenes guy. I like to be involved and try to contribute the most. I'm better. I think I'm better at putting the event together or being the entertainer, or maybe both, than being an audience member. I think that's just my programming. But you need the audience, you need the people performing and putting events together. But that's my orientation. Always has been.
I'm going to wrap this up with this is how we usually conclude the interview.
With food?
No.
You've still not asked me any of my favorites.
Let's do the food then.
No,
oh my
no.
God. Okay.
My favorite pizza.
Are you
my favorite pizza. May I say this?
I'm going to take a guess. It's either Andolini, Sabastanos, or Hideaway.
Round and free.
Oh God. No such thing as a square pizza. Actually,
I've been waiting for this for 30 minutes.
Actually, if you read the Todd English book, in his massive book of pizza recipes, he says never trust a round pizza because if you go to Napoli, they stretch it, but it's not like perfectly round.
Never trust him.
Never trust Todd English, who says never trust a round pizza. Don't you dare end without food, you cunt. Hey! Hey, Raptor, Jesus. Kiss your mom.
Let's talk about these questions.
What is your stand?
Are we down to the wire now?
No.
I'm just getting comfortable.
Sit back, relax.
I took my shoes off. You don't know this, but I took my shoes off.
He
And now-
didn't because they're motorcycle boots, and that takes at least 12 minutes apiece. What is your stand
It may
on
take you
video
12
games?
minutes. What are we talking about?
What is your stand on video games bringing people together? I'm going to excuse that. I'm going to pass that question for him. Video games don't bring people together. You know, here's the thing, Raptor. Let me tell you
Love
this.
brings people together. And if love is a video game, then I'm all for it.
We were talking about this last night.
Love or video games?
Video games used to bring
Love
people
during
together.
video games? The love of video games.
It used
All
to,
you need is love. Don't buy me love. Love me do.
Video games used to bring people together.
me.
Because
Boom, boom, boom.
you would be sitting next to the person playing video games.
like a fool.
Let's see.
Sorry.
Online video games don't bring people together because you're in two different places. Like 1970s Atari brought people together. You had to sit next to the person you were playing there. That would bring people together. Okay? Food. It's called Second Life or genital jousting. Okay, those games
Is this
are
what this show turns into?
sometimes. Sometimes it
Are we
devolves.
getting ready to joust?
Genital jousting.
Give me a second.
There's actually a video game that I'm not allowed to stream on
I'm
Twitch
ready now.
because it's,
I'm ready to joust.
it has
That's all I'll
it
say.
has penises in it. It's like the Showering with Your Dad Simulator 2015. That's another video game that is banned from Twitch. Let's see.
I thought I heard you say. Go
Yes,
ahead.
I did. I did.
Have we answered all the questions, or we're never going to get to them all?
Damn, you look brave as shit. Is it true you lost a nipple trying to breastfeed an iguana?
That must be for you.
Thank you.
I
For
see you're cold, but I only see one, so I'm thinking.
Thank you for the question, Stinky's Duck. Love your screen name, by the way. that's the funniest shit I've heard in a while. I heard you got a nibble trying to breastfeed it. That's
Love.
amazing. That's amazing. That's an amazing one-liner, by the way.
I love sushi. Mexican food.
F Games show next topic. Fuck you. Okay.
Romantic walks down Riverside.
Okay, we are going to do the food thing. We're going to do it.
Okay.
Are you a blue plate kind of guy? Are you like the Savoy, the chicken fried steak, the local fare, or do you like more international cuisine? Okay, two questions. Number one, where, when you want to treat yourself, do you go eat? Question number two, where do you go eat if you're impressing the person you're with? And if they're the same, so be it.
Well, let me kind of start with that. When say somebody's in town visiting,
Mhm.
it could be a band, it could be friend, family. I tend to want to take them to give them a taste of Tulsa.
Okay.
Or Tulsa traditions. That could be, so it really depends. My best friend, and who was also the drummer of my first band, but when he comes to town, he lives in Colorado now. He comes to town once or twice a year. He always wants to go to Coney Island because he doesn't have that in Colorado.
Oh my God! Why wouldn't you take him to gyms?
Well, he says he wants to go to Coney Island because we used to go there as kids.
Okay.
So what, you know, do you have your friends that want to go to gyms? Mike wants to go to Coney Island?
Well, Jim's Coney Island is like. Well, I don't even go there.
You're
for,
making this difficult.
I don't even go there for Coney's.
And
They've
you
got the
asked me-
best gyro in town.
You asked me, but then you're telling me
I'm sorry.
my choices are wrong.
No, I didn't tell you your choice is
This
wrong.
is all wrong.
I just asked. Did you?
This whole thing is wrong.
Simply Sai, thank you for the raid. 14
So-
people. Thank you, Sai.
Can I finish this question?
Yes,
Or
you can.
Romeo. So,
Call me John.
Johnsky,
Johnsky.
Romsky. Okay, so yeah, I like that because I think it's important. So if it's something that's related to Tulsa, I always put that as a priority because I want them to kind of get a taste of toast. There's a great band, Scottish or a Celtic band called Wicked Tinkers. We've had them at the Scottish Festival many
I remember
years.
them.
Those guys are incredible. And 2005, first time I brought them to Tulsa, they wanted barbecue. We took them to the Naughty Pine, which
Okay.
was there's a version of Naughty Pine, but they got.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This is going to happen 3 more times. Maybe not. Nope, there's. Thank you, Crispo, for gifting 5 subscriptions to 5. Let's see. Stinkiest Duck got one. Knifey 25. Thank you so much. Jesus all up in me. Rainlight, Wicked Dinosaur. Oh, Diana. Diana's Serbian. She's a streamer from Serbia. Thank you guys for being here. And Crispo, thank you so much for distributing subscriptions, gifting the subscriptions to those 5 people. Love your face. It's amazing. Thank you so much. Please go on about the band and the barbecue.
And they play this great version of a tribal Celtic music. Check them out. Wicked Tinkers.
Oh, I love them.
But they, so we took them to Naughty Pine in 2005, and those guys, every year they come back, all they want is Naughty Pine barbecue. I'm talking, it's an obsession. And there's been a couple years they were here for like a weekend and playing a few dates, and they're always kind to let me perform with them also, which is its own kind of cool. But sometimes they would eat every meal of the weekend at Naughty Pine, and that was some guys that were turned on to our. Now the place is called Naughty Pig. So anyway, but that's true. But it was just a good example. They just fell in love with
no
it.
Naughty Pine
and
anymore?
One of the guys, no. Thanks for staying up with stuff. One of the guys actually had me buy a jug of their barbecue sauce and send it to him. So they were serious. But the point is, it's not so much impressing people, but I want them to get a feel for Tulsa, whether it's barbecue or sushi or anything, Coney's, if it's Tulsa. So that.
Yeah.
And what was the other part of that question? Or
Where when you're trying to impress,
where
where do you take them, or if you want to treat yourself?
Well,
where
it
do you
depends
go?
what I like. Like I said, I like Mexican food.
Okay.
I do like
Do you,
Coney's.
do you like
I like
authentic?
sushi.
Do you like authentic Mexican, or you like the trashy American version? Because I'm a Poncho's Mexican buffet guy. It's the grossest stuff. If
It's
you
not
like,
around anymore.
I know, but if you like authentic Mexican food, it is the polar opposite of authentic Mexican food, and I love it.
Okay, you're asking me the question.
Yes.
You're answering him. He's always been like this. He's trouble.
This is not an
Trouble.
No. He's under the assumption that the presupposition that this is an interview. It is not. It is
It's two presenters.
It's a conversation.
Okay.
Which means
can I jump in? Then?
Which means
can I be
get
part
to
of
talk.
it? Can I be part of it?
Please do. Answer something for Christ's sake.
I'm gonna look out the window.
Isn't that a beautiful skyline?
It is. It's beautiful.
It's from River Parks West looking back.
Funny enough, I see how my hair is doing this little loopy thing. I didn't
I
mean for it to
know,
be
it's the-
loopy, but I look real 60s or 70s, and I didn't mean to. But it's I'm gonna go with it. 'Cause it's really too late to switch it, but it's kind of doing this.
We've been
But
on
it's
for over an
okay.
hour and a half.
Great.
Of course.
Thanks. Just blew my
Should,
rock
should
on
I
me.
have shown you?
See, I
when
just
you
did
look?
it.
No,
But-
it's on a delay. So this was us
It's
back
on
in
a-
time.
Delay.
Mhm.
We're time travelers. Doctor Who.
So you also like
Doctor
sushi?
Who? Doctor Who. And the reason I got into Doctor Who in the 70s, I thought it had something to do with the Who. True story. I'm a lifelong Who fan.
And Tom Baker
I
had
just-
curly hair like Roger
Yes,
Daltrey.
and very good. That's it. And just yesterday, I realized Doctor Who had nothing to do with the Who. Just yesterday.
Just yesterday.
3, 2, 1. Next question and our next
The
conversation.
The food.
Food.
You also mentioned
I
Mexican.
like
you
food.
mentioned sushi.
I like food.
Do you find yourself eating at home a lot, or does your
No.
lifestyle dictate a lot of out and about eating and schmoozing?
I go out and about for convenience,
Okay.
and so I like to hit restaurants. I enjoy going to restaurants in Tulsa. And I have my favorites. You had mentioned India Palace. I love India Palace.
Oh yeah.
And but again, I'm just not a big spice fan, so I
Yeah,
have to
I don't
go
go the
real
full-
low on the scale. I love Thai food.
So you're more of
Mexican, Italian?
a korma or a tikka masala guy rather
What
than
did you just call me?
rather than the full.
This is an outrage. This is me pulling my microphone off and walking off.
So you don't go the
But I
full.
don't have a microphone on.
You don't go the full
But I'd
Vindaloo.
swing it if I did. Like this one, I'm going to swing this before.
No, please don't. That was a Father's Day
I'm
gift.
going to swing it.
Next time David's on the show, I'm going to have a microphone for him to swing just so he's in here talking. He'll be like, and what an outrage. I broke him. Yes!
No, I've been doing that the whole time.
You've been smiling but not laughing.
I've been laughing at you for years.
hate you. I hate you right now. You know what? No, I'm not even going to go there.
My mom used to say,
I saved the 26th
Can I call my
Scottish
mom?
Festival and Games. I saved it
You
because
did. He
because
did. He
because
did.
the webmaster that was running their website got hooked on World of Warcraft.
but wait a minute.
So I came in and
I was
he
trying
owns
to.
me.
I was trying
no
to,
wait, you got me the painted orange shirt.
Hey,
That was Gary Parsons, my old
yeah.
roommate Gary Parsons' band.
my mom.
Okay, back to your mom. Go on.
She used to have her funny little quotes, and if you said, you know what, she'd go, no, but I know his brother. So every time I hear that,
Right.
don't roll your eyes.
No.
I just shared a little story from my childhood. Hang on, I'm getting
It's a
a little emotional.
It's the same as, you know what, chicken butt. I mean, it's just one of
I know.
those things where all of our families had some smart-ass thing to say based
least-
on a completely innocuous question.
I'm emotional, but the fans got my hair blowing. So
You're looking lovely for someone so emotional. The makeup department did wonders.
It did.
Because you are rough. Let's see. Do you play video games? Of course he doesn't. Do you
You're
play video
rubber.
games?
I'm rubber, you're glue. What you say bounce on me and sticks to you.
That's so catchy. That should be something.
Thanks.
Do you play
Next.
video games?
You know, I don't.
Did you ever? Were you into comic? Well, did you have anything that you...
One question at a time. Just think, use your words. Use
we're
your
on
words,
food.
DubSKI.
We're on food. We're on food.
No. Go ahead and ask me. You said something about, I think you said
Because
something about comics.
I mean, I had a love of
Comic
music.
books?
I had a love of music too, growing up. Right, so that was pretty
You
much
started
where,
to say something about comic
where
books.
all my passion was. But is there an off chance that you branched out and were you also involved in any other like nerd things as a kid? What did you like to nerd out on as a kid, other than music? Because I mean, we all had music.
I had a ex-girlfriend once tell me, you're one of those people, this is her saying, I mean, she said, people think you're cool, but you're really just a nerd inside.
Well, we all are.
Yeah.
That could-
So I
it's a
didn't take it as
blanket
an
policy.
insult. So anyway, what?
Did you have an Atari?
No.
Okay.
But yes,
No, but yes.
well, I mean, I collected comics as a kid.
Did you
Does
go
that
to
count for
Did you
anything?
go to the arcades?
Is there something funny about that?
Did you go to the arcades? Next to the skee ball at Bell's? Did you go in the arcade?
Well, you mentioned skee ball, and I have to tell you that my dad, when I was, again, a kid, would take me to Bell's, and we would play skee ball, and I became, and I believe to this day, may still be very skilled at skee ball. The tickets coming out, that was the biggest thrill.
Where can
And-
you go enjoy skee ball now?
We're talking about back then at Bell's. I don't know where, but I'm saying I think today I might still have skee ball skills.
I'd like to see that.
Now, do you remember Crystal's Pizza?
Of course.
They used to have skee ball, and my little sister,
You
when she was really little, I used to take her there, and we would play skee ball. It was kind of like handing it
I
down.
hated skee ball at Crystal's Pizza because it always made so much noise because it was in the same room as the theater of the Mickey Mouse cartoons that you'd watch.
Well,
While you
it
ate
was-
your pizza, it was off to the side, but you could still hear those people rolling the ball. Like, I'm trying to watch a cartoon here.
They were
Sorry, I'm sorry.
They were silent though, so I.
There is no silent skee ball. It's
The-
a big round wooden
The
ball.
movies were silent,
Oh.
but who's
Oh.
keeping track? If you need to populate with details, that's okay. But
I'm gonna have to have you on like once a month.
let's just
Like every month, it's like, hey, it's our monthly episode of Davit Souders to give us a
our conversation.
We haven't even scratched the surface. I mean,
We didn't talk about icon. We
You
didn't
have
talk
so
about,
much depth.
We didn't talk all my medals. I'll wear all my medals next time.
right. That's what I'm saying. Like, I gotta have you back.
I'll be glad to come back.
Okay.
This has been fun.
1v1 skee ball championship on stream. I
So-
guess we could stream that.
We're done with the food thing, right? Now we're going to the skee ball. But we talked about Crystal's Pizza and skee ball. But you had the blaring, silent things they showed. Why do I remember that better than you?
I never even recalled that they had the sound turned off. But I mean,
Well, it wasn't. See,
most
they
old-
used to make movies called silent movies.
But most of
and
the
that's what they're
cartoons
doing.
were pantomime anyway. You didn't need dialogue to explain the action in the cartoon.
I just know that their little theater there was silent. So
I did
whatever.
not remember that.
Well, again,
Huh. I miss Crystals.
that.
I miss
was it-
Shotgun Sam,
if I
Casa
had-
Bonita. Jesus, that corner
Okay,
had
if you-
so many fun places. Toy
and-
City was in there before we had Toys R Us. Toy City was next door to Casa Bonita, and that was like your dad taking you into Toy City was like, whoa, a whole store of toys.
My top 5 pizzas, Crystal's Pizza. Well, it was a chain, I think. Yeah, great pizza. Something about Casa Bonita, which again, some of the viewers may or may not know about Casa Bonita. It was a chain. I think there's still one in Denver.
Colorado or New Mexico
Colorado, yeah.
has one.
But the big Mexican restaurant had different theme rooms, and there was one that was like a cave, like a Six Flags type cave, and that was the favorite room you wanted to eat in. Casa Bonita in Tulsa the cave had an upstairs, but my whole growing up, it was always closed. They reopened Casa Bonita 5-6 years ago, and we went to it, and upstairs was closed, the cave, and I went to management and I told them this, I said, upstairs the cave has been closed, always closed, my whole life. Can I go up there? And they let me go up there. You know, those bucket lists that you have when you're in elementary school, we all do?
Yeah. The upstairs cave at Casa Bonita was your bucket list.
It's kind of a joke. Okay, don't get real serious on me.
You weren't setting the bar real high there, were you, Dave?
I'm swinging this mic. So I got to go upstairs to Casa Bonita. I solved that mystery. So some things don't let go of the mystery.
Can you tell? Can you say?
I also know about Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster, but I solved this mystery. I will reveal here. We'll reveal those another time. But I went upstairs to the cave, and it was funny because I went up there and it was just kind of those things. You go, this has never been open, and it wasn't. But they had booths and stuff up there, but they just used it as storage. But it just to be able to finally know what was up there, it was incredible. And again, I'm getting a little emotional about the cave at Casa Bonita.
My dad's family shut that place down one night.
Really?
Yeah.
Were they the law?
No. They were. They came here from Pennsylvania, and they had quite the appetite.
Pennsylvanians. There you
Yeah,
go.
I mean,
Say no more.
Their skillets. I mean, we have like the skillet to cook beef, and their skillets were like this big, and their cans, their canned goods and stuff. And those people could eat, and they
Are
came.
you talking about Casa Bonita?
And my dad took them there because it was all you can eat. And he's like, well, they'll get
Oh,
their
yeah.
fill there. They raised that flag so many times. They came out from the back and said, "We're out of food. You need to go."
That's right.
Like they shut it down.
Those of you who don't know about Casa Bonita, they would have the little flag if you wanted more chips and sopa.
Yeah,
What do
whatever
they call
you-
it? Sopapillas?
Or anything on
I
your
don't
plate.
think I've ever said that word out loud.
Anything you wanted on your plate. If you got the all you can eat. If you wanted another
All right,
chicken enchilada or something.
Try ordering pizza. See if they brought that. You said anything. Maybe I'm just being too detail oriented. The silent movies were not silent. Did you have some other questions on there, or I'm trying to help you along here?
I'm just going to look dejected for a few more minutes and then I'll continue.
Okay. And begin. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I speak wrong time to?
I don't remember asking you. I mean, I'm running the conversation here. I don't remember asking you to quote the Gettysburg Address, but all right. I'm glad you still
I will
remember
never
it
quote it again.
on this show. You want to talk about food or not?
Yeah, I've tried to earlier. See, somebody help me here.
Shiny quarter.
Okay. Yes, let's talk about food some more and a lot. Forget music.
Forget
Food.
Forget the passion of my life. Let's talk about
Yeah.
food. I think we've covered food.
Bracelets.
We'll talk
Bracelets.
about
Anybody?
I'm gonna save anything that I don't have for the next show, for the next time you're on.
We have plenty of material.
Yes.
I mean, clearly.
you have plenty of material. But how I do like to wrap these up.
Okay.
It's kind of a little. I used to be on a show called The News Junkie, and we were like, it's a panel show where we made fun of current events and that kind of thing. It's down at the Comedy Parlor downtown when it was open, and we played this game as an improv game.
Like we're playing now?
No, and
Foursquare. I love Foursquare. Can we play now?
No. And I've kind of morphed this improv game that we used to play into the final segment of the interview. And it was basically we would bring someone up for the audience, and it gave us as comedians a chance to riff off an audience member. So we would have to guess.
Do they call that improv? The kids calling it that?
Yeah. We would guess what their name is, where they were from, and a secret that nobody knows about them. Now, this is how it pertains to this interview. If you saw yourself for the first time today across the street, what would you think your name is? Just based on, hey, that guy. I bet his name is...
David.
You think you look like a David?
I just was going with what
Okay.
my name is.
Where do you think David's from, just based on his appearance? You see David over there. Where do you think David's from?
Since I saw him in Tulsa, I might think he's from Tulsa.
Okay. So,
Or I might whistle at that blonde and go, oh, that's a guy.
somebody has said that they think you're a Mick. He looked like a Mick? Oh my God.
That,
Okay, but we're asking you, not him. Finally,
Mexican food.
what is a secret that you think nobody knows about David from Tulsa?
Well, and we revealed the perm, but people who have known me for years know about that, so that wasn't.
Oh, so you're going with the backstory here. All right.
Well, no, I just.
He's dishing secrets.
Well, I was thinking you're asking this stuff. I'm trying to give you some answers.
Okay. So you see David from Tulsa over there.
Yeah.
6 foot tall gentleman wearing like a communist ball cap and a black Henley with long blonde hair blowing in the fan. And you think, I bet that guy has a secret, and I think I know what it is. It is go.
I guess we all have some secret somewhere, something.
And with that, I'll thank you so much, Davit Souders, for being here.
Hey, it's been great, and it's been I was going to say it's been great. I was going to be sincere for a second, but you just laughing at it. And I was trying to think which of my many secrets.
Oh, you don't have to tell a secret about yourself. This is a hypothetical person across the street.
Oh, well, that's not.
You
not
just
so fun.
you just happen to give
God,
that
I was
person.
going to give away the deep dark secrets.
No. You see a guy across the street,
And I realized just it's so
and
many.
you've
I'm
claimed
like,
that you think that man's name is David. You think he might be from Tulsa, and now you can riff and kind of give a.
God, what? That guy is clearly a Scottish badass. McDavid. Is that any better?
McDavid. Your name Davit. That's Scottish, right? Is that a Scottish spelling?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Celtic variation.
Okay. I like it.
Well,
I always try to pronounce the T. Do you pronounce the T as a hard T? David?
Well, some people, I think, overpronounce it, and
Okay.
so they'll be like, "Hey, David," and then I wipe the spit out of my eye. Or some people, I just sometimes naturally will say, you give people information, you'll say Davit, and I think in their head they're going, I know how to spell David, but you get it, or people think it's a typo. And most times when I see it, when somebody's name is David, it's Davitt. In Scotland, it's pronounced Davit.
Oh.
But I've always pronounced it David. But I was talking to a guy. I was ordering some food again, and the guy on the phone was trying to have a rapport and be cool with me. And he goes, and this happened about 3 months ago. He said, "Dude, they totally slaughtered your name." I go, "Do they spell my first name with a T?" And he goes, he said, "Yeah." I said, "That's how it's supposed to be." But he was embarrassed, but I was laughing because it wasn't like it was Bob Shedinsky or something. And a lot of times somebody at an office or somewhere,
They're not getting the name.
they think it's a typo, so they'll switch it back to D.
Yeah, they're not getting the name on the Starbucks cup right. Ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
But hey, this has been great. This has been fun, and I've enjoyed hanging with you.
I
And,
really appreciate you being here. So interesting, and the stories were amazing. If you guys missed the interview, if you're just showing up and you missed the interview, this will be premiering tomorrow on my YouTube channel. You can subscribe to it. The link is right below the stream. And I'm going to let him raid my fridge. I'm going to kick him out. So we'll be right back.
Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid.